WTBQ.
Hi again. I'm Allan Ross, President and CEO of AJRoss Creative Media. Welcome to Creative Marketing on WTBQ. Every week we will be discussing different topics and trends that can help market your business. If you'd like to call us and ask a question or want to give your input, you can call us at 845-651-1110. Again, 845-651-1110. We are also streaming live on Facebook.com/AJRoss Creative. Welcome. Hi, Carlos. Hi, Matthew. I think I'll start before we talk about a topic with the quote of the day. How's that sound? Okay. You want to give the quote of the day? Go ahead, Matt.
All right. So this one is: a lot of business owners fall in love with their own product and forget that other people need to be romanced by a story. A brand should make you feel something when you say the name. Without context, it's just stuff.
And who said that?
I don't know how to pronounce their name.
I don't
you
need
tell
Michael
me.
Biscaglia. Biscaglia. He's president of Stour. He's an entrepreneur who built a $200 million company by selling ladies' jewelry to men. What we'd like to, we're going to be discussing today is rebranding. It's interesting. In the last few days, we've gotten 2 or 3 calls from entrepreneurs or different companies who want to give a different message or want to refreshen their brand or want to ask questions on how they can reach out and, have more people calling them. So I think what we'd like to discuss is rebranding, if it's good for your company or if it's not good for your company. And first question I'd like to ask you, Carlos, is what is a rebrand?
Rebranding is exactly what it sounds like. It's taking an existing brand and evolving it, refreshing it. And people will do this for a multitude of reasons. It could be just because it's time to evolve their brand. If you look at a lot of companies, like we were talking about Apple yesterday, we were talking about Coca-Cola, Pepsi, you look at their logo throughout the years, it's not exactly the same. It's always changed and evolved as the company's grown.
Right.
So that's one reason a lot of companies will rebrand themselves. And it goes beyond a logo, and we'll get into all that, as the show goes on. But it's about evolving the tone, the messaging for your company, your actual logo, and just your overall presence.
It's like a brand repositioning. It's like hitting a reset button.
In some ways. Sometimes it's a reset because things are just, not going the direction they wanted or the company's evolved. Sometimes it's just about
and they want to
evolving.
get to a different demographic, or they want to refresh their look and feel and their message to existing clients.
Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be a total restart. It could just be a little freshening, something like more subtle changes to fonts that you use, little updates to the logo, that kind of thing.
Or if there's new products that they're going to be, selling to the world and that sort of stuff. So, some of the top reasons to rebrand your company.
Like we talked about before, your brand's evolved, meaning that maybe you added new products or service lines that reach different demographics than you used to before. For example, Sears. They went with that campaign, The Softer Side of Sears, at a certain point when they were trying to adapt to more of a female market as the company expanded and grew. Sometimes it's about you've just evolved your brand over time and you want to change your tone and your messaging a little bit, or just update and refresh the company to get it new in people's faces so it's not the same old that everybody's used to anymore. Now it starts to stand out in everybody's mind in your marketing materials.
Right.
Those are 2 big advantages.
Yeah. Sometimes, though, rebranding, if not thought out correctly, can really hurt you.
It absolutely can. Yes, you're stepping on a lot of history and a lot of work that's been done over a lot of years.
And I think one of the biggest rebranding of a product that really hurt the company was Coke.
Yeah, you were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, they came out, I think it was in the 80s. They came out with the new Coke. And on the bottle or on the can, it would say New Coke. and they actually changed the flavor of the soda.
Which, surprisingly enough, in that kind of context of a company, flavor is part of that brand.
Yeah, and
It's a huge part.
and it was horrible. I mean, people were freaked out, and what they had to do is come back and rebrand, and they rebranded Classic Coke.
Trying to let people know they're back.
And the cans back saying to Coca-Cola. I mean, it was a huge mistake and a big money loser, too. It took them a while, and I think Pepsi jumped on it, and I think they did a commercial with someone saying, well, where's my Coca-Cola? You know what I mean? Meaning, you lost your Coca-Cola, so come to us. And Pepsi and Coke have been dire competitors. They hate each other, you know? So it was a chance for Pepsi to come out and say, hey, you lost your Coke, we still have our Pepsi. You know?
And they started the Pepsi Challenge.
Yes.
Around that time as well.
Now, a great rebrand is when Apple, when they fired Steve Jobs, Apple went out and did what they thought was right for the company, and it almost went out of business. You imagine the biggest corporation now in the world, over $1 trillion. During that time when they fired Steve Jobs, they almost went out of business. So what happened? They rehired Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs did a logo which is still being used today with the apple, just the apple.
Got rid of the rainbow in it.
And rainbow, and just cut it in, and they have the little stem, and he rebranded the company. He rebranded the message.
To think different.
Different. This is a different product from anything, you know. And I remember, we've all been, I mean, I've been using Macs since 1984 when I had my Mac Plus. Can you remember when, did you have Mac Plus?
Yeah, the first computer I had.
And you had to have all those floppy disks, and you had 100 floppy disks to cut. You imagine? I mean, it was crazy. And then the next one came out, and, you know, but it evolved into one of the best, the best computer.
Yeah, now you have a computer in your pocket that you can call anybody on at any time.
And so the brand is still the brand. It's the most exciting, most customer relating brand out there. And they keep on, you know, I have an iPhone 7S, and I used to change them all the time. Remember, we always used to get it.
Yep.
And 7S is so good, and for what I need it for. Now I know they have the new 10, and there are people out there just will line up just to get the new phone. I mean, it has OLED and all that. I don't think I need to get it now, but it's just what they're offering.
But that's part of their brand too, is that message that every year they held that big conference, they stream it online, they do all that.
And
they
that was
push out,
started
"Here's
by
new
Steve
stuff."
Jobs
It
when he
was.
came out on that big stage. Now Elon Musk does it, and all these other people do it.
Yeah,
So
it's all about that think different.
Yeah, and you know, that was a good one. You know, so
A lot of that rebranding also kind of represents their message, which is the simplicity and the elegance of the design, you know, which goes into all their products. So not only was it, you know, a rebranding of their logo, it was also representation of, you know, the direction they were going to go in with their company.
Well, I think we were talking about, I don't want to talk about Apple all morning, but I remember as a session musician in New York in the 70s and 80s, I used to have quarters. I used to, to make sure because you always had to check in to see if there's any work, And I think I said it last week. Now I have everything in my pocket. I wouldn't know what to do without it. It's
amazing, and this generation won't know how we all got by without cell phones and everything else. But you did.
Yeah. Now we're
really
talking about rebranding a company, going and doing all of us doing our due diligence to come up with a strategy. It's just not redoing a logo. I've been hearing, they did a nice logo for us. The logo is your brand, but you have to have thought and a reason why to use that logo or to create that logo. You do a lot of that, Carlos.
Yeah, and I think Oreo is probably one of the best stories that, signifies what we're talking about, because the brand of Oreo is actually worth more than if you liquidated the entire company for all its assets.
Yeah.
That brand is so synonymous with everything that you could sell certain products under it because it's so well known. And that's really what branding is about. It's about tying something to a name or an icon. For example, Shell gas. If you were to just see that logo and just see a shell, you would never think gas. It's not synonymous with that symbol. Like when I think gas, I don't think about a seashell. I think, Florida or a beach or something else.
Right.
But through their careful branding, their messaging over the years, the same with Apple. You wouldn't think about computers if you just saw that logo.
Yeah.
It's about how you become synonymous with an icon, a logo, and a tone.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I don't know if you guys, apparently Dunkin' Donuts is removing donuts from the name. I don't know if this is just a rumor, but.
No, they did it.
Okay, so they're even taking the name of the product out, and they're going to bank on it still being successful due to, their choice of color, and just like one word, Dunkin', and say, okay, well, that should handle it. So.
Well, we'll see how that works. Yeah. All I know is I took a trip and we're driving and I wanted coffee and I wanted Dunkin' Donuts. And I wanted the donut too. But there's another thing we should talk about too, is you could rebrand, or a big corporation can rebrand, but if their product sucks, I don't care what you do.
Well, that becomes synonymous with that name.
Yes.
Really quickly. It's as good or bad as it is. You're going to associate it with that name, and that's why some people rebrand.
Yeah.
Because the former company kind of ruined the reputation of that brand.
Well, when Coke did it, people hated the taste. I mean, what were they thinking?
And when Jobs came back, he had to rebrand to say, hey, it's a different company now that I'm here.
No, this was Coca-Cola.
I'm talking about Apple. When Jobs
we
came
went
back.
over there.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to go on a break. We'll be right back. This is WTBQ and Creative Marketing.
AJRoss Creative Media is the premier marketing, advertising agency, web design, and social media company in the Hudson Valley. AJRoss connects their clients with prospective customers by generating powerful marketing and advertising concepts. Meet with the AJRoss team and you'll walk away with a new and innovative approach that'll bring your company to the next level. Contact the AJRoss team and set up a free consultation and get started with the best. Visit AJRoss.com.
If you missed the Frank Truett Show, here's what you missed.
Poseidon Adventure, remember that movie? The reason why it listed and went over, Shelley Winters, born in the state 19...
Stop it.
What?
That was a great movie.
Stop
though.
it.
Oh, for the love of
She was not that
No?
heavy. No.
Okay. She
By
didn't
the
get
way.
out of the boat, did she? They couldn't get her through the hole, remember that?
I'd like.
The Frank Truett Show, weekday mornings till 9 on WTBQ.
Hi, this is Allan Ross. We're back. I'm with AJRoss Creative Media, and this is Creative Marketing on WTBQ. I'm here with Carlos Vega, Creative Director of AJRoss, and Matt Ross, Senior Vice President of Digital and Webmaster and all the other stuff we're doing. Talking about branding and rebranding, I'm not going to mention the company, but we worked for a major orthopedic organization in New Jersey. And we spent a lot of time redoing their website, making it really user-friendly, making it entertaining for when people came on, just not to say, come here and we'll fix your knee and this is how we do it.
Yeah, they wanted a certain style to them. They wanted a certain tone.
Well, this was
They
our
wanted
recommend, and it was great. I mean, we still get calls from other practices because of the way it looked. Well, I went on the website today. Matt and I went on, and the sliders are all gone. You go to their different modalities, and they've taken all the sliders. All it is copy. It doesn't show how you do it and what you do. I was shocked.
Yeah, and even if they decided they wanted to go in a different direction or establish a new tone or brand for themselves, that's a perfect example of the way not to do it. Because you don't just rip down something and leave it, half under construction with no tone, no message, no information, even more so. than anything without your new plan ready to implement.
Right. So, like, at the very least, have some sort of splash page saying, we're working on our brand, or, we're updating some elements of the site, just to let people know that when they get to the site, if it's, not up to where you want it to be when you're ready to go live, there's an understanding that, like, okay, users can, see that you're an in progress kind of thing.
Yeah. Question: when we get called from a client, in fact, we just got called from a potentially new client, and he is an entrepreneur, and he wants to get investors to invest in his new product. And I spoke with him, and then I handed it off to you.
Yep.
And should we discuss what it is, or?
Well, I don't think we even need to go into that to give the benefits of the conversation. I think that goes into another good segment part of this conversation. That's when you're branding, or sometimes the reason people rebrand is because what you're doing is set up and designed in a way that you think and understand it, but not necessarily your potential customers or investors.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's sometimes the realization people come to and say, okay, it's time to rebrand. Or in this guy's case, the reason he's coming to us is because he knows that it's not set up in a way that markets to the potential investors and audience that he wants to go to. It doesn't have that right tone, that right approach. So he knows he needs to rebrand himself.
Right.
To get to that next phase, to get his company to grow.
I was listening to the conversation. We were all on speaker, and it was, well, here's some suggestions that we want. Well, no, that's not.
You have to be open.
Yeah.
Definitely
Something
do.
that's hard is that, a lot of people, like with this guy in particular, they are a part of, or they were a part of creating their original brand up to the point that they are right now. So I think he had created the logo himself. He had made his own website. So he had a personal investment in, how he got to where he is now. So he kind of like, clients could have the tendency of hanging on to their old materials, their old logo. They have like a personal attachment to it. And, that's something that we have to consider whenever we're rebranding someone, is like, not only is it what we think is the best design, the best approach, but how's the client going to feel about these changes, and does this fit their vibe? Will they feel comfortable with this move going forward? Because they have to feel comfortable with their own brand.
And sometimes you have to evolve at the client's pace. Sometimes you have to find out why that personal attachment's there. Was it successful for them? Can you capitalize on that? If it was just whatever they're doing, like in this case that we're talking about now, isn't working as it is, all we can do is be honest and upfront and say, hey, listen, here's the problem spots that you're having. If they're willing to move forward with you and have more of a dialogue, then great. If not, then you're only going to be moderately successful.
Yeah, it kind of boxes you in what you're able to do with their marketing from that point forward.
Okay, I have another question. Not a question, but a topic. What's the most common iterations of the changes, like when we would help somebody rebrand their...
Did you have something?
Oh, no, I was just going to...
Okay.
So a lot of times the first and foremost is, do they have the right logo, which we've talked about before. It's very common that people will have a logo that's only in a JPEG format. They have no idea what their colors are, what their fonts are, and you can't be consistent across the board if your colors are changing all the time, things of that nature. So it's about, getting that logo, whether you're keeping the same one and just getting in the right formats and setting colors and fonts for it, or establishing a new brand. Then there's the consistency factor. That's usually the biggest obstacle. And that's making sure that all their materials, when you throw them out on the table, stand out on their own, but look like they came from the same organization.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into who we spoke to yesterday, but it's a pretty big non-for-profit in Orange County who has asked us to help us to rename and to and I know
Rebrand.
Rebrand. And I know this organization for a long time. we've worked for them a little bit, and I sat down with them and we're talking, and I said, you know, I know who you are, I know what you've been doing, but what do you do? And she said, that's exactly it. People think that we're going after money, or we give money, or whatever. And, you know, it was interesting, and they were very open. Well, they know the agency.
But that was also, that's the opposite, like you're saying, of the conversation we had the other day with this gentleman, where they were hyper aware of what they needed.
Yeah.
And they just want to work with an organization like us to, you know, as together, get it all on the right page.
And they also hired a New York City marketing director to help them, and she was very open to what we had to say. And
it'd be good working with them.
It's going to be great.
Yeah,
I'm
they're a
not going to
great bunch of
mention
people.
who it is, but when we do it, we're going to tell the world. And I think one of the most important thing is messaging again. Messaging. And again, we talked to this young man, and while I want to do it, I think what we said, do you want to find investors?
Yes.
Do you want people to come and invest in this kind of kooky thing you're going to be doing?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is you have to realize when you're talking to investors or you're talking to customers, it's two different approaches.
Yeah.
It's two different tones. It's two different ways of saying the same things.
Yes.
Which is something, it's an approach that we've taken even with building an entire website specifically for the investing stage of their company. And then, you know, once they reach the certain level where they have enough capital to move forward, then we move on to marketing them towards the consumer.
Yeah, and I want to also say, you know, when a company goes out, and you should find a good marketing company to help you rebrand. A company that not only will help you with the design, but will do the research, will do the marketing process, will you know, understand what your tone and feel is. Someone says, well, we're rebranding, and the company we use did a really nice logo. The logo is great, and it is the you know, what the picture of the company, but if you don't have a where, why, and how, then just doing a logo doesn't
Yeah, a
do it.
logo is great, and it's a great start spot, but that's not rebranding.
Yeah, what's your tagline? What's your mission? I mean, there's so much more than just doing a logo.
And the tone, like you were talking about messaging, tone is a key aspect. And that tone it's almost as identifiable as how somebody talks
Right.
to you directly, the way they speak, their choice of words, how it is consistent throughout their stuff. Consistency is another key word that we keep saying a lot, is consistency, tone, and a great brand that is clear and easy to understand, or you make synonymous with what you do through your marketing efforts.
Yeah, and another thing, I've mentioned this before, when we do work for people, or, you know, or clients, again, it's not how much you like the campaign, but more importantly, does it reflect how your potential clients or existing clients are going to think about it?
Yeah, they have to have like an objective view of, you know, what trying to hit that mark, you know, which is hard.
Well, I'm going to probably lose some of our lawyer accounts, but lawyers are the worst. I mean, you know, you do something that, well, this is not what I want. I don't care what you want. You know, what is going to make the phone ring? You know, and those are tough guys, but we have a lot of them, and you know, and also the messaging, and we're seeing all this, you know, Me Too and all that, and then there are so many people out there that just don't believe that this is going on. It's just remarkable. It is going on.
Yeah, and that itself, within itself, as much as it's just a hashtag, that is a brand. That's a voice that stands behind something. That, you know, in itself means something to a lot of people. And it's, again, if you just saw Me Too as a hashtag somewhere, it would mean nothing to you without all the voices behind it, without all the media coverage and everything else behind it. They give it the power that it has.
Yeah. And, well, I'm not going to go into it anymore, but, you know, just the lashing out of these women, or some men too, saying, "Oh well, it's not true." It's awful, But that's
it
another
has
side.
to it has to have a voice, and it's finally found one, and it's found it behind the brand that's now known as Me Too.
Right.
That brand is now synonymous with this
And
empowerment.
some of these good old boys don't know how to deal with it.
Well, they have to, because it's too strong of a notion now.
Well,
it's
we
too
hope
strong
so.
of a brand.
We'll see what happens this week. Anyway, I think we're about ready to go. We have another minute. Any last words from you, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, something to consider is kind of the scope, like the placement of your brand. For instance, when rebranding I know this is kind of jumping from where we were just left off, but is your branding going to be finding itself on billboards? Is it going to be like in the signatures of your email campaigns? So like when you are rebranding, it's important to consider the avenues and the locations that you're going to be found. So I mean, even in the context of the Me Too hashtag, the hashtag has taken off, and that's like why that worked, because it's a hashtag that everyone can just apply to their social media usage.
And connect their stories too.
Right.
15 seconds,
the brand.
Carlos?
Yeah, like we said before, consistency. And the last thing I'd say on that is just don't ignore all the mediums where your logo and your message currently exist.
Okay, this is another ending of a show that we had. This was a great subject. Again, this is Allan Ross, AJRoss Creative Media. If you would like any help or to speak to us, you can call us at 845-783-5770. This is Creative Marketing, and we'll see you next week.